Hey everyone, welcome to Gaming in the Keats. I'm your host Chris, and I am bringing you finally an in-person, in real life floor hammer ninth age. We got my friend James coming in, bringing his space mat with his Highborn Elves, and this is a project that I have been painting for him now for actually quite a while. Um, and so we're just about. I mean, we started adding new units again. So I still have a few more models that you'll have to see that I need to paint up, but we're almost there. We're on the home stretch of getting this army completed. So I'm really excited to see once it's completely done and finished back on the tabletop. But for now, I'm bringing out the demons. It's been a long time since I've played the demons on the tabletop, so I'm really, really looking forward to it and just experimenting around with some new units. All right, for my list, we're going back into another really killy Kalima's Deceiver. I'm really liking this build here with the Curse of Lycanthropy. Still a Protein Magic 4, so I have all 4 spells, and then Guiding Piercing Spike, which is going to be in the big unit of Succubi, that do the -2 agility and base contact, so that's a really spicy unit there. Um, and then I switched out Trampling Hooves for Battle Line Hero, just seeing if it makes any real difference. So he's a little bit cheaper, but not by much here. So, and then we have, I'm trying this out, a Harbinger, a Farther Chaos, Captain Attach on a Hellsteed. So another Whispers of the Veil here. And then Guiding Charge Tendrils, so the unit gets lightning attacks. Then he's going to be going into a unit of 9 Hellhounds with Digestive Vomit, which is pretty interesting. So it's a fairly cheap unit that puts out a lot of attacks. They're only strength 3. They do have Lethal Strike, which is where I think the Guiding Charge Tendrils helps them out a little bit to get those reroll against non-metal armor, which is really nice. And then when they win a combat, they get +1 strength and AP with the Digestive Vomit. So I think that's a spicy little unit there that hopefully I can missile in and do a lot of damage. Um, and then we got the big unit of Succubi, the small unit of Succubi. That they're just there to like hopefully clean up and get in the way of stuff. Some imps with all-seeing eye, so they have accurate, and the Firestarter Smite the Unbeliever banner, so they are scoring. 6 Clawed Fiends with Incendiary Ichor, so the Flaming Aegis and Flaming Attacks. Hope Harvester as well with all-seeing eye. Like I said, the 9 Hellhounds, 4 Mageblight Gremlins, just as is. 4 Blitflies, this time with Unholy Appetite, so they get Hatred in the next round of combat if they cause a wound. And then we got 4 Veil Serpents to round things out with Soured Luck and Illusory Paths. So in this matchup, I actually swap out Soured Luck and choose Spear of the Infinity here, because I wanted some extra ranged damage there. But other than that, I think I keep. Oh no, and then here, no, I have everything. So that's all good there. So double whispers, I think, is pretty nice. Um, and yeah, a little bit of range damage. I think it's still a nice all-around list. It has some fast elements as well. Has some flying elements, some light troops. It has some combat punch. So I think it's a nice all-around demon list here. Alright, so for my opponent's list, he's running a mage on a giant eagle with gleaming robe, so Order of the Fiery Heart of Master of Alchemy, so that's really nice. He's got 3 commanders. We got Queen's Cavalier, cheap guy on a horse with the Nova Flare, so that's with the Dragon Forged armor, so I think that's a really nice piece there to go into a big unit of Rhyma Knights. He's got another BSB to go into the Queen's Guard, Protection of Dorak, Spear Obsidian Rock. Then we got another commander that will go into the Sea Guard, so Fleet Officer. So Fleet Officer plus Sea Guard means that this unit is Resolute 2. So all of a sudden, this unit is rocking quite a lot of static combat res. And they're Sea Guard. They're really, they're no slouches, all things considering. We got 30 Spears, War Banner of Rhyma, 5 Reavers with bows, 9 Knights with just an Aether icon, no Stalker standard here. I do think this unit should probably just take a Stalker standard, but that's my opinion. 17 Queen's Guard with the Banner of Becalming, so they steal a channel from me. And then we've got an initiate with molten copper and pyroclastic flow. So I think he switched out and did. Oh gosh, I think he chose flaming swords with this one here. So he took out molten copper. I can't remember what he did. I know he had a flaming sword somewhere. And then living steel, corruption of tin, and then he switched out one of these spells, I think, for his hereditary. So I think he took out. Oh gosh, I don't know. I think he took out molten copper here and just did the hereditary, if I'm not mistaken. And then he's rounding out the list with 2 sky sloops here. Alright, so we got ancient fortifications, frontline clash, so 6 inches pinched in, and then 12 up. Forge and plunder on this map is really, some of these maps with forge and plunder is pretty interesting and kind of sparse with some of this terrain. So the only terrain I could really choose aside from the center is either his forest or the water feature. So I just chose the water feature for my plunder, and then he chose he chose the field. That's completely outside of his deployment zone. So there's only 2 options really. We're just the hill or the field to choose. So he chose the field, which I think was the right call, because that forces me to take one of my scoring units and put them in the field and just like sit in my back line, which my army doesn't want to do that because my opponent outranges me. So I need to actually be pushing. So we'll see if this is a wise decision or not of what I choose to do, but I got capture the flag, so my opponent actually has the advantage right now because he has more flags on the field than I do, because he has a BSB in there and I don't. And then he got Master the Veil, which ironically I have the advantage on him because I have a lot more units with channel than he does. So we kind of reversed itself. Like neither of us have the advantage on each other's secondary. Forge and Plunder is interesting because now both of us have to push at each other, which is favorable for me. So I really just got to make sure that I'm able to get probably 2 units into 1 or 2 of these points if I choose to forgo this field. But I think that really that just kind of gives me the advantage on the primary. So we'll see what happens there. And deployment. So we got our nice space mat, and I think both of our armies have like space theme vibes in there, which is pretty funny. From left to right, we got the Hellhounds with the Harbinger right here. It's the different painted colored dog. The Harbinger's right there, and the Hellhounds. We got the small unit of Succubi, big unit of Succubi with the Kalima right here. We got the Imps with the oh god, whatever you call it, the Hope Harvester right here. So Marathi is going to be standing in as my Hope Harvester. We got 3 Bloat Flies, and then we got the Clawed Fiends off to this side. Left to right, we got Reavers here. We got Spears here. Sea Guard have Vanguarded up in the middle. Queen's Guard in the back. We got the Initiate just chilling right there. We got Sky Sloop. The Eagle Mage. So the model I painted for my opponent's like Nova Lance Griffin the Griffin captain. He's going to stand in and be his mage for today. We got the Dragon Princes right here in the water, which is I'm actually pretty happy that they're there. And then we got the second Sky Sloop here. So my thoughts here in terms of deployment, I got my opponent had to choose sides, or I made my opponent choose sides, so I dropped for first. And my thinking here was like, okay, if I know I'm picking the water, I'm putting 2 scoring units here to pressure my opponent. And so I'm saying I'm going to put the Clawed Fiends here because the Dragon Princes actually have resistance to flaming. So if I'm putting him in the water, it actually negates the resistance I have. So I lose my own flaming attacks against him. So it's actually an interesting proposition here. And now we also have the Bloatflies who are meant to deal with the Knights. So I'm putting these 2 units to work together to kind of cover each other's weaknesses a bit and put pressure on this Knight unit. Versus here, the dogs are just there to cover my left flank and make it really difficult for his spears to advance into the center and plunder this piece here, either of these, without being flank charged by the dogs. So that's my thinking there in terms of deployment. So here I just push up everything as I can. I lose 1 succubi to dangerous terrain. I reveal that this is an Arcane Ruins, and it is the one that gives you the +1 combat resolution and disciplined for the remainder of the game. Oh man, I forgot I had +1 combat resolution on this unit. Ah, crap. Oh well. But I also got Wall of Lead as the bound spell. So here I push up. I'm outside of 19 inches of a charge here from the fiends to his dragon princes. However, the bloatflies I just push up and say, fine, you can charge them. I'm hoping that the toxic hits will probably do some damage to you in return, and that way I can kind of counter here with the succubi coming in. If he does happen to blow through the entire unit of bloatflies, he can't overrun and hit the imps. I don't think he would want to anyway, because that means he would already have to activate the Sea Guard to chaff the succubi, which is giving me a flag, and it's just not a good, I don't think it's actually a good play for him to really charge the bloatflies here, but I'm tempting him to do so, because he still also has to take DTs anyway, and it's pulling him off of his own plundering unit. That way the fiends can actually go within 18, my turn 2, and steal it from him. So it's really just putting my opponent in a tough position with these dragon princes here. Everything else just moves up, as you can see. I'm keeping the Reavers in the front here because I don't know, this unit can charge my flank and can just hold me up, which I really don't want to do. I don't want to give him that too easily here, so the dogs are kind of covering this space into here. Everything else moves up. I have him a 6 here with the War Banner of Rima, so that's 16 away, but everything else is outside charge range at the moment. Veil Serpents are right in behind here, as I forgot to mention. In terms of the magic phase, I start putting all my damage spells at the moment into the Sea Guard, and a combination of damage spells and shooting. My opponent stops Whispers of the Veil onto the Sea Guard, so with the damage and the shooting, I whittle the unit down actually quite a bit with the Hope Harvester and the Imps. So that unit is looking much more manageable coming into my opponent's turn 1. So my opponent does not take the bait into the bloatflies. Oh, I did mention I got off a Wall of Lead. I didn't mention, but I did get up the Wall of Lead on the bloatflies just in case he took the chance to get them the -1 to hit. You can see like I said, we are playing Floorhammer here, so we are sitting down, got our knees in the way here. But yeah, so my opponent is outside of charge range of the Clawed Fiends here, and is backing off outside of charge range of the Blowflies, I believe. So my opponent's just moving back here with the Dragon Princes. He kind of stays put with the Sea Guard, forcing me to deal with them one more turn. And is just moving back with the spears, brings the chaff over to activate them if they need to. He's moving back here with the Queen's Guard, and the initiative is now facing. So basically my opponent's just going to focus all of the magic and shooting onto my bloatflies. And so in so doing, he gets off the metal armor spell onto them. I stop the Quicksilver Lash onto them, but my opponent does get off a Pyroclastic Flow, and unfortunately my opponent also gets off the the Hereditary as well. So the magic phase is actually pretty potent here. Actually, let's see. No, I think he got off every spell in this one. I failed. I tried to stop the Hereditary, and I had 5 dice to 4, and he beat me on 5 dice to 4. So unfortunately my opponent did get off a Pyroflow, he did get off the Hereditary, and he got off 1 extra spell as well. So with the combo of Pyroflow and the shooting here from the Queen's Guard, it kills a total of 3 bloatflies, so I only have 1 left. Ouch. Alright, so my turn. I'm still trying to stay outside of 18 or 19 here. I don't know. I don't want to give the Dragon Princess a charge. You know, odds are he loses 2 to the dangerous terrain, but now I think he just blows through the Cloud Fiends at that rate if he charges me, so I just don't want to give it to him. And now that the Bloatflies have been completely depleted, I just turn around and go back 7 because they aren't light troops. So I have to just I reform and go 7. And now I'm telling my opponent, okay, you have to kill this Bloatfly because otherwise I'm going to put the Bloatfly into the field and score and plunder this terrain marker here. And that way, in order to do that, you have to get a little bit closer to my lines anyway. So that was my thinking there. I don't march the succubi right in front. I choose not to charge because my opponent had an easy flee, and it was likely that I just wasn't going to catch my opponent there. So it just wasn't worth charging yet. I'm happy to sit here and kill the Sea Guard for one more turn, or at least that's my plan. So, and then you can see here the gremlins come in behind the initiate. So now I'm pressuring the Queensguard and forcing my opponent to make another tough decision here of what to do with the gremlins. Yeah, in the magic phase, I do get off a few more damage spells, and then shooting whittles down the Sea Guard a bit more. Let's see, I don't see any other wound markers. I do get off some more damage spells onto the initiate, but my opponent makes all his saves, so that was unfortunate. And then my opponent also, I think, uses up several of his... I'm forcing my opponent to use up several of his tokens here to keep the Sea Guard alive. So my opponent does spend both of them, so it really does save the Sea Guard here, but they still have been whittled down quite a bit, because this guy, now that he didn't move, he can do a maximized 4d6 shots. So yeah, you roll 4d6 and pick the highest, and so yeah. But the Sea Guard are still there currently. Okay, so my opponent here shuffles over the Sea Guard. He just reforms, ready to activate yet. Or he's not ready to activate this chaff unit yet. He still backs up with the spears. My opponent turns around the initiate to look at the gremlins, because now he's chaffing the gremlins from getting into his Queen's Guard. And then he's setting up a counter charge, knowing that most likely he's going to stick if I charge him. And then hopefully he can blow through the gremlins. He doesn't want to kill them too much, because that being said, it will take away 2, then I can charge the Queen's Guard and hold them up for a turn with the gremlins, and that's still 10 health points right there. So I think, yeah, he has to be careful here of how much damage he puts into there. His Queen's Guard and his Sky Sloop are still going to try and focus down the Bloatfly. The mage comes over here to do the same, and a combination of ranged and shooting, magic ranged and shooting, does kill finally the Bloatfly, but it still took quite a bit. So I'm happy that the Bloatflies, even though I did lose them, it's going to prevent me from getting this back token here. It took 2 turns of a lot of concerted effort to try and to take down the Bloatfly. And I think here, no, my opponent does, unfortunately. He dices me again on the favor of melodies, or no. I think I let him get the favor up this time, and I have to stop not a pyroflow. I have to stop a molten copper onto the Bloatfly. So the Bloatfly actually does force both the Sky Sloop and the Queen's Guard, not molten copper, excuse me, Quicksilver Lash. It forces both these 2 units to shoot down the Bloatfly. So I'm happy about that there. Okay, it's go time. Here we go. So you can also see a little bit of shooting put some wounds onto the gremlins, but not much. So I push up the succubi again. Now I'm still in the hard cover. I'm pressuring the Queen's Guard and then keeping everything else in my front arc here. These dogs needed a 5 to get in on Swift Stride, and they make it into the flank of the Sea Guard, so I'm very happy about that. My goal here is to either break and run down this unit, and this unit has Horror, by the way, so he'd have 2 instances of minimized flee. and my goal is to overrun outside of line of sight from the spears and pressure that Queensguard unit even more, saying, like, you gotta deal with this unit. If you don't, I'm charging you, and it's going to be rough, no pun intended. If I had failed that charge, I could have easily just pushed the succubi up to block the spears from getting into the dogs. So I'm happy about that. And then I also plunder this terrain feature right here. So yeah, magic. I get off. I'm able to, this time I start focusing on, oh, and excuse me, I also do charge the initiate with the gremlins. I'm going to see if I can break it. Maybe I can sneak some wounds through, because it does have, these guys do have a lot of attacks and do poison magic, or poison channel, I think. So I might be able to do something here to this initiate. We'll see. If anything, I'm holding it up for a turn so it can't just, like, missile me, or it can't just missile me or pyroflow me. So I'm taking the chance here. So all my magic damage, my opponent is forced to use a token, but I am able to get off with a combined magic damage, 3 wounds onto this sky sloop, so it's almost dead. And then some shooting. I put shooting into the Queensguard, and I do kill several of the Queensguard here with the imp unit right there. So yeah. Oh man, and this unit freaking holds on Snake Eyes. Crap. So that sucks. That totally changes my plan. And now the Sea Guard are still alive with 2 models left and the captain. And now the dogs, I'm about to lose this entire unit here. So I do reform this unit to face the spears, and I did win the combat, so now they're strength 4, AP 1, but the spears are just going to go before the dogs anyway. And that's still, even though they're 5 wide, it's still an extra fighting, so that's still 20 attacks, hitting me on 3s with press of ranks, wounding me at 3s, because this is the War Banner of Rima. It's not gonna be great. So, okay, Highborn Elf turn 3. As you can see, I did sneak 2 wounds onto that initiate, but now he's countercharging in. He did stick. He countercharged with the sloop into here. He now is giving me a 16 here, but the problem is he did plunder this token, and now he's outside the water train feature, so that means it means that, like, if I charge in, if I want to lose my flaming attacks, I actually also lose my rank bonus here if I maximize in that way, which is not ideal, unfortunately. So perhaps that was a missed opportunity I had, but regardless, he gives me a 16 here, and is tempting me to charge him. And now, because they have resistance flaming up, I'm not going to take that charge. Like, the Clawed Fleens will 100% lose that fight, even if I charge. So, because he also has that captain there with the Nova Flare, so it's just not looking good for the Clawed Fiends at this rate. However, they've kind of done their job in just keeping the Dragon Princes back, so I'm happy about that at the moment. But yeah, as you can see, this Highborn Elves turn 3, he charged, he moves the Queensguard back. In the magic phase, let's see, what does he do in the magic phase? In the magic phase, he's able to get off again his Favor of Melodies. I think I stop, it was a struggle for me to stop a lot of my opponent's spells. He's just able to get them through. And so he still gets up his hereditary impact hits here. He rolls max impact hits, and he just crumbles the gremlins. I do sneak 1 more wound through onto the initiate, which is good. So he has 2 wounds left. But yeah, the max impact hits was the thing that crumbled the gremlin unit completely. I was hoping I would stick for one more turn. But yeah, Queen's Guards start to open up onto the Succubi. I lose a couple, but really not that much because of the hard cover and the move. So I'm happy about that placement at the moment. But yeah, and then also here, he just like nukes the dogs. Like there was not even a question. He reforms the Sea Guard and reforms the spears. Even though he did lose his, he is disrupted at the moment. So that's at least, I have something going for me there. Okay, so my turn 4. So the charges I did were, oh yeah, and 3 bows killed frickin' 3 succubi from the Reavers. But yeah, so the charges I did were I elected to first charge the Sea Guard with the succubi. They're decimated, so he fled. And then I had an option either to do a charge. I needed a 5 on Swift Stride to get into the Queen's Guard, or this was an auto charge. And I decided because he was disrupted, I decided to just take the safe auto charge because my concern was if he had fled with the Queen's Guard, yeah, I do get their points, but now that means the spears can hit my flank, and it sets him up for some later plundering here and threatening these units. So I really just had to get rid of the spears at this rate. So I charged the spears here, charged the succubi here. Veil Serpents, I think I mentioned, they're starting to come over here with their magic because I'm starting to feel the pressure of the knights, and I want to be able to intercept them with the Veil Serpents, and I think my plan here is to prep. Basically, I'm trying to prep a illusory paths onto this unit here to just give it random movement and prevent it from getting anywhere useful. That's for a future turn. So in the magic phase, I am able to get off some damage spells onto this initiate, but once again, the hereditary saves him from dying, which sucks. The imps open up on the Queen's Guard, and I think he also uses his second token to save some more Queen's Guard, but I do continue to whittle down the unit just a bit. So that hereditary really kicking in. Okay, so we got some good news and bad news. The good news is the succubi were able to just like massacre the spears, break them, and run them down, which was perfect for me. And I did end up using the Curse of Lycanthropy onto this Kalima because I really needed to just ensure that I just did like max damage as possible to that spear unit. So that went according to plan. And then over here, I kill 1, and then he goes back and kills like 2 of me, and he sticks. I was like, oh shit, that did not go to plan. So my succubi unit completely whiffed, and then he ends up sticking on his, like, I had a charge and a rank and a wound. He did 2 wounds. He loses by 1, and yeah, he sticks. So damn it. Okay, so now this is actually a picture of after the magic and shooting phase. So I can tell you movement first. My opponent moves over here with the Eagle Mage, the Initiate, and the Sky Sloop over here with the Queen's Guard. He turns in a combination of magic and shooting, including the breath weapon here, and bring down the succubi quite substantially, which was rough. That hurt a lot. Shooting here does 1 wound onto the Clawed Fiends from this Sky Sloop. But other than that, you can see that the Dragon Princes are saying, you know what, now I know you're not going to charge me, so I'm just going to force the issue. So he comes up and he says, go for it. So that's kind of scary here. I'm about to lose this Claw Fiend unit. And yeah, so my opponent's starting to clean up points here where he can. And these succubi can't hit a frickin' barn door to save their life. They don't do any wounds, and then he goes back, kills all but 1 And so this is actually after I lose the combat and I have one left. This is after Crumble. So I was just like, what the fuck? Like, why? Oh god, stupid succubi. Oh well. Alright, so DL turn 5. I'm just saying, basically, I'm pulling the Claw Fiends away. I reform and go 9. Unfortunately, I don't have another March turn to get within 18 of this thing anyway. So, backing up and going 9 still would have been effectively the same thing, I think. Because these guys have a massive charge range. So I really couldn't have avoided it. We did have a question here. My opponent and I did have a question. It's a flank charge. And so if he was to charge, he would come, pivot, and then, or wheel, excuse me, and then touch. But it's a flank, so is this a possible charge? Or would he just be fighting over the gap? And if so, how many models would get to fight? Like, we were both just confused about that. So to ensure that that doesn't happen, I do cast illusionary paths onto this unit and just give them the random movement 2d6. So that like basically prevents this from even being an issue. Like he would needed to roll like a 10 or an 11 to get into this unit here. So I have a feeling my opponent's just going to turn around and go this way to threaten the middle of the board with the random movement at that way. So Veil Serpents did their turn. Again, I can't get this freaking initiate down. I'm trying to like magic him off with the Spear of the Infinity or the another bound Smite the Unbeliever, but my opponent is just able to cash in those tokens and save him from dying. So unfortunately, I do whittle down a few more Queen's Guard from shooting, but really not too much. Not too much in terms of the way of damage here now. I do put the Veil Serpents, they are facing out this way, and I am preparing them for a counter charge. They are charge 9, so they can actually charge quite a long way. And then surprise everyone, this succubi dies. So I just charged in, did absolutely nothing aside from the 1 wound, and then a unit of 10 succubi die to 5 reavers. Okay, sure. Alright, so my opponent does go in with everything here. He charges the Eagle in, he charges the Sky Sloop in, he charges the Queen's Guard into the succubi, so I'm just like, oh god. So yeah. Let's see how that goes. He moves the Initiate over to look at the back of the succubi, just in case he needs to do a counter charge here. But yeah, he then brings over the Chaff that's still alive. He does lose one from dangerous terrain, but he brings to Chaff the Imps to prevent me from doing a counter charge into the Sky Slope here. He random moves 6 inches, the Knights this way, so I saved my Clawed Fiend unit, so I'm just like, yes, okay, they saved their points, good. They did their job by just distracting the Rima Knights. And yeah, with magic, he's able to get off a Quicksilver Lash into combat because he's Order of the Fiery Heart. I think this time I finally stopped the Hereditary, and then I just get lucky and he doesn't actually kill any. I think he might just kill 1 succubi from the Quicksilver Lash. So I got a little lucky there. And at the end of combat, oh my goodness, this was wild. He got 6 impact hits again, but then he whiffs on his Tarun roll. And so after everything said is done, my opponent actually has an abysmal rolling phase. And just he whiffs, and then I kind of whiff, and we're all just like whiffing about. And at the end of all that said and done, he does kill the succubi down to the last model, but the Kalima is just alive and kicking, and I make my leadership check, so I'm all good here. But he's the active player, so he says, you reform first. And, I put the Kalima in base contact with the guy, and then, of course, he gets to reform out of base contact. with the guy, so the Kalima is not going to get his bonus attacks because he's the active player, like I said, and you can do that now. You can just take characters out of contact with each other because they don't need to be the same models. So yeah, well played there. And then you can see the Sky Sloop overran from the combat there. All right, my turn 6. I reformed the imps to face this damn initiate. Oh my god, I want him to die so badly. I do make a 5 on Swift Stride here with the Veil Serpents. I don't take any from DTs. Into the back of the Queen's Guard. And I was like, yes, okay, there's a chance I can get this. Because if I can get the Queen's Guard and the BSB here, and if the imps and the Claude Fiend survive, then I win my secondary, and that's a big swing on points, because right now I'm losing pretty hard on points. And I also have it so that the Veil Serpents are nudged in a way, or they're maximized in a way where I can get a rear charge into his Sky Sloop here. So yeah, in my magic phase, I do get off a Foresight onto the Kalima, but my opponent does stop the bound spell missile into the initiate, and he also stops the -1 resilience as well into this guy, and with only the imps are in range because they're range 24. The Hope Harvester is not in range, and I get 1 wound onto this damn initiate, and he makes his armor save. Oh man, this guy is going to live. At least he gives up half points, but I've been trying all game to kill this thing, and he has not died. So yeah. So that being said, the Kalima does end up killing, well, a combination of the Kalima and the Veil Serpents do kill the Queen's Guard down, so it's only the captain is left. He, I think with all the static res, he does break. It's not an auto break, but he fails the reroll. And I do choose to pursue with both the Kalima and the Veil Serpents. The Veil Serpents get into the back of the Sky Sloop. So hopefully the Veil Serpents can start clawing me some points back this game. Remember, this isn't a Griffin Captain. This is just an Eagle Mage. So the Kalima, yes, the Veil Serpents basically bailed out the Kalima's Deceiver right there. So I'm very happy about that. Okay, so this was a big turn. We had a big moment here. So my opponent elects to not charge the Eagle Mage or the Initiate in. He just didn't want to risk me sneaking 1 wound onto the Initiate. He wanted to try and use the Initiate to like kill and combo with the Eagle Mage to kill the Kalima. Because the imps were here, he had to have moved his Eagle Mage in a way to put him here, and my imps needed to have not been there. And the only way that would have happened is he makes a charge with the Rymanites into the back of the imps, and he needed a 6, and because of his captain guy, he gets to re-roll his charge, and as you can see here, with 4 dice, he rolls 2 5s, a 4, and a 1. So he fails the charge, and the imps live to stop my opponent from even possibly getting his secondary. So good job, imps. So I got a little lucky there. But yes. So in terms of magic, my opponent is, I stop one of the 2 damage spells onto the Kalima. He is able to get off 2 more wounds onto the Kalima, but he's unable to kill her, so she actually lives and saves her points. And the Veil Serpents, they put 2 wounds onto the sloop, and they break it and run it down, and that is the end of the game. So I get those points in the end. So, whew, what a game. That was pretty awesome. And all that being said, it becomes a 12-8 victory to the Demon Legions. And that includes me getting the secondary because I was able to capture the flags, and my opponent was unable to make that charge at the very end to kill the imps, and therefore I prevented him from getting his secondary, and we tied on the primary. We both only had one plunder point. I had a total of 2187, and my opponent had a total of 1963. You can see these are the units I lost: the Harbinger, the Succubi, both units of Succubi, the Bloatflies, the Hellhounds, and the Gremlins. My opponent lost his BSB, his little fleet officer, his spears, and his Sea Guard, the Queen's Guard. I got half points for the Initiate. I got one Sky Sloop, and then half points for the other Sky Sloop. So there you have it, folks. Thank you so much, James, for the game. That was awesome. It was a lot of fun. It was very dicey. There were some crazy moments there, for sure, and I think it could have gone either way had we had just either one of us had gotten a little bit lucky. But no, that was a lot of fun, and I'm glad to see James bringing out the Highborn Elves. That army is almost done being painted. I can't wait to finish that army once it's done, and see it on the table completed. So thank you so much for the game, James, and yeah, looking forward to the next one. So on the post-game thoughts here, I definitely felt like I needed to push on my turn one. I needed to put the pressure onto my opponent. I do think this game was very dependent upon who got to go first, because if my opponent did go first, he would have all that range damage that outranges me that turn one, and it would have been a very, very different situation there. It would have been, I think, an uphill battle for me, but at the same time, if I had deployed more back, if I had gone second, then I probably had a better chance of getting the primary because I had that field all the way in my backfield. I think that being said, I could have played my primary a bit differently. I could have tried to figure out what unit I would have kept back. I think probably the Bloatflies would have been that choice, but at the same time, I just really wanted to put pressure on those Rymanites with the Bloatflies. So I don't know what the best option would have been, to be honest. Maybe that would have been something to keep the Clawed Fiends back into the field instead, and then just have them move out in later turns, because they are very, very quick. But yeah, the Clawed Fiends also did their job in keeping the Rymanites still at bay because they were forced to be in the water. I think neither of us, ironically, had the secondary advantage, and so luckily at the end I was able to squeak it by. In terms of the micro thing, that, it goes back with taking a chance onto the Fiends, like keeping them back in my backfield, and having them be more active in later turns. The Sea Guard sticking on Snake Eyes was wild. Like, that was just ridiculous. That completely changed, like, the scope of the mid-game. So that was pretty crazy. And then my Succubi whiffing as well, like, not, like, them losing their points and the Reavers maintaining their points was annoying. There was times where I was, like, not prioritizing the Highborn Elf hereditary spell, but then there are also times where I was just, like, my opponent was dicing me on it, and it was hard to stop it. It was really challenging. I do think with the micro side of things, I did mitigate the Knights well, and I'm actually happy about how I played them. So that includes the Veil Serpents, intercepting them with illusionary paths, and then at the very end, the Knights needing a 6 with a reroll their charge. That would have absolutely opened up the game, and my opponent, I think, would have 100% just won it there for sure. That was huge, really. But then also, speaking of huge, the Veil Serpents making their charge into the back of the Queen's Guard really just secured me a whole bunch of points at the end game. So my opponent and I both had some big chances, and I think the dice at the end kind of said I got my chances and my opponent didn't get his at the end. But, it is what it is. It's a dice game. So there you have it. And thanks so much, everyone, for watching. I really appreciate it when you like and subscribe. We're trying to hopefully it helps get these videos to more audience members here, because I've started noticing there's been a massive decrease in the actual, the reach that my videos are starting to have. So just any sort of commenting, liking, subscribing It just really helps. I do appreciate it. And yeah, pause it on this picture. Look at get to look at some beautiful painted models. And yeah, just loving the hobby element of this game so much. And it is such a bummer that our local gaming store has just has closed indefinitely. So we gotta make do what we gotta make do here, and do some floor hammer if need be. So that being said, I'll catch y'all in the next one. And yeah, ciao ciao for now, y'all.